Hey there, welcome to NZ Money Karma, where you can find freedom from the daily grind through budgeting, simple living and adventure. Well, spring has sprung here in Ōtautahi, Christchurch, New Zealand, and I was going to be spending this video talking to you guys about everything we spent in the months of July and August. I hadn't managed to get that done in August for July. For some reason I find it a hard video to do. I don't know why. But anyway, that's what I was planning to do. And then I added up the numbers and we spent just shy of $17,000 over those 2 months. We're living on $40,000 a year. So how does that actually work? We spent $17,000 over 2 months. And I was like, well, it's simple. It's because we have sinking funds. Over many years, we put money into funds, and that allows us to pay for things like the new fence that you're looking at. Or, I'll bring you around here, the newly double glazed windows, that kind of thing. The strawberry food I recently bought for our strawberry garden. You know, all that kind of stuff. That's what I was going to run around and say, oh, look, you know, this is what we've spent, this is our power, da-da-da-da-da. But what I've decided to do is talk to you guys about how we actually get the big things done. You know, how is it that we're living on $40,000 yet, you know, we've just paid around, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but in total about $7,500 for some double glazing. How is it that we've managed to refence our entire property that was just under $12,000 when we're living on such a small amount of money? And the short answer is sinking funds. That's how we save for things. But then it got me thinking, okay, so that's sinking funds. Let's go for a little wander. I'm about to do some gardening over here. But that's sinking funds, right? So sinking funds, great. That is savings, essentially. About the investments, because you don't grow wealthy putting money away that you're going to spend. So that's what I've decided to talk to you guys about today. I'm going to get in, I'm going to tidy up this garden bed here. You can see me in my shadow there. I'm going to tidy this up. This is where my tomatoes are going this year. It's a new spot, and I have started yesterday pulling out the weeds and then just making a garden path out of some old mulch. So I'm going to get in and do that, and then I'm going to talk to you guys about the difference between savings and investments and why that difference is so very important. Talk soon. Yes, it is spring in Ōtautahi, Christchurch. This is just like an hour after I shot that video, and I don't know if you can see, it's melting quite quickly, but it's just started to hail. That's a little bit of rain and plenty of hail. Crazy. Hey guys, I'm back. I've finished my gardening jobs and I'm ready to crack on. So today's video is a little bit different from usual. Normally you'll see me, you know, sitting at a table, cash stuffing, or maybe I take you out and about on a day with me. If you haven't watched any of my videos before, I love adventure, I love simple living, and I like to do it all on a tiny budget because I just don't think you need to earn pots and pots of money to live a really good life. And that's what I aspire to show on my channel. One of the things, though, I think you do have to do to live a good life is learn how to invest. So today, that's what I'm talking about. Now, I'm no financial advisor at all. So please, if you are in a real pickle, go and see someone who's qualified to tell you about this stuff. I'm just going to share about my experiences, what I've learned, and what I believe is a great way to manage money. I guess, how do you know whether or not you should listen to a thing I say? Well, maybe just watch my other videos, see if they align with your values. And if they do, then, you know, take something from this. And if you think, oh, no, it doesn't align with your values, then, you know, leave it behind. Just call it 20 minutes out of your day. So just to start off with, I wanted to talk through what is investing. I think sometimes when I hear people talk, and this might be at work or it might, be something I watch on YouTube, I think people get confused between saving and investing and the path to creating some wealth that each of those two things do. So investing for me is putting money, time, or effort into a financial scheme with the intention of receiving a profit. So it's the profit. Investing leads to a profit. That's the first thing. Then what is saving? So savings for me is the portion of income not spent on current expenditures. So that's the money that is set aside for future use and not spent immediately. And for me, those go into three different categories. There's the short-term savings, there's the medium-term savings, and then there's the long-term savings. And the simple difference, I guess, is between these two things is investing means you're shopping for assets, and that can be things like shares, land, houses, and these put money essentially back in your pocket rather than into someone else's. There's an investment return on the money. They grow in value, or they produce a regular stream of income in the future. So, like a house, for example, you might buy a rental property. It increases in value over time, capital gains, and rental income puts money back in your pocket. And that's in comparison, say, to money spent, which is what savings are. Like we save money with the express intention that we're going to spend it. So whether or not that's in the short term, the medium term, or the long term. And that depletes our incomes. Savings, in a way, whether or not we're spending them now, in a year, or in 2 years, they decrease the money that we have. And I think the confusion lies in that sometimes when we're saving for something, we think we're investing because it's something for the future. Like I'm saving for an overseas holiday, for example, whatever. That might feel like an investment, but that's not an investment because we're going to spend that money on having some fun. Does that make sense? Please write in the comments below if this isn't making sense, and I'll try and clarify. So if I just use, for example, something that we're doing. So these are examples of our savings. So, if you've tuned in before, you'll see me cash stuffing. Don't know if you can see that. This camera's a bit funny how I've set it up. So, each week I'm taking my binders, I'm getting out my envelopes, and I'm saying, okay, we're going to put some money into gardening. So the optometrist, fun, weekend, a weekend away, a birthday, that kind of thing. So those are short-term savings. That's what we do in the short term. We have the intention that we're going to spend that money, really quick, kind of soon, not necessarily tomorrow. That's things like grocery money. That's just money that comes and goes. That's no kind of savings. There's no sinking fund for that for me. But things like a weekend away, gardening, clothes, the dentist, those are all examples of short-term savings. Medium term for us, and I've used some travel examples here, a medium-term savings goal for us might be a trip to Australia, the school fees, rates for our house. So we're not going to use them kind of next weekend, but we know we need to save in advance for those big things. So, a trip to Australia, what's that going to be? Probably $6,000. We're not going to be able to come up with that money like that. So we save throughout the year so we can get a trip to Australia every year. School fees cost around the same, a little bit more. We like to pay those in advance. So we'll not even pay them in advance. We like to have the money sitting in a high interest savings account in advance so that we can pay it when the school bills us. But we like to have the money there at the beginning of the year rather than be trying to create it throughout the year. So that's a medium-term goal for us. Same with rates. Long-term goals, these are savings goals, not investment goals. Long-term goals will be things like a European holiday. That's really expensive. Flights are probably near $12,000 for the four of us. Plus we have a poor exchange rate. The New Zealand dollar doesn't hold up well against the euro or the pound. So that's a big goal for us. And that takes some years to achieve for us. So that's a long-term savings goal. And that's the same with home improvements. You saw the windows, you saw the fence. That's the culmination of a few years of saving towards those goals. So those are our savings examples. I'm not going to talk straight away about investments, but I am going to talk about what we invest in. So hang on, if that's something that you're interested in, it's on its way. The first thing I would like to say, though, is when to start saving versus investing, because I don't think investing is for everyone right now. I think investing is for everyone eventually, but it really depends on where your starting point is. If you've ever read anything or watched anything or heard anything of Dave Ramsey, I'm a bit of a fan, and I think the things he says about his baby steps, getting out of debt, saving emergency funds, are really solid platforms for people starting out. And that's something that we used when we were starting out and just we never had consumer debt, but we did have a lot of mortgage debt. And that's what we used to kind of get our game plan together of what we were going to do to start building some wealth and create a bit of financial freedom in our life. So when to start investing, I think the very first thing you've got to do is get an emergency fund. Dave Ramsey says just $1,000 before you start trying to pay down your debt. I think in New Zealand, $1,000 just doesn't go very far. So I think you need more. I think 3 months at a minimum for an emergency fund. And I think that's a real priority. It's the economy, the kind of world we live in at the moment is not necessarily very solid. And it can be really easy to lose a job, have a stand down period before benefits are available. I don't know how necessarily it all works, but I know the more money you have behind you, the safer you will feel. So get an emergency fund. Everything that you'll do in your life that relates to money will be 10 times better if you know you have an emergency fund to kind of take up the slack if something goes wrong. It turns, sometimes a sad event like a funeral into something where you can go and truly celebrate someone's life rather than be worrying about how you're going to get there, how you're going to pay for your flight, can you give a koha at the funeral, all those kinds of things. Emergency funds take the stress out of, almost every situation, even when it is a, innately stressful or sad situation. Dave Ramsey says not to invest until you are debt-free, except the mortgage. I don't know if I feel 100% happy about that or not. For me, I feel like it's just really motivating to be able to put something towards an investment, even if it's something very small. But one thing I do 100% believe in is for your kids. Start investing for your kids now. If you have no money to put towards anything for your kids, then that's fine. Don't do that. Focus on getting groceries, clothes, shoes, all the things that a kid needs today. Absolutely. If you're putting some money away, even like $5 a week into a bank account for your kid, I would recommend, this is what I'm just saying what we do, so that's why I would recommend it. I would recommend that you start investing for your kids now. The younger they are, the more beneficial this is going to be for them. And the reason why I say that is because they don't need an emergency fund. You are your kid's emergency fund, right? So they don't need an emergency fund. So you can tick that one off Dave Ramsey's list. And number 2, they're debt free. They hopefully have not inherited some debt from anywhere. So they should be debt free. So they meet the criteria to start investing. So every dollar you invest for them today is going to grow to be $2. So I think if you can do that, absolutely do it. I would, if I had a choice myself and I had to say, am I going to give my kids pocket money or am I going to give them investment money? I would give them investment money. That to me is more important because that grows a long-term plan for them. And they can get a part-time job and have their own pocket money if that was the need that we had. Like if I had to make that choice, that's the choice I would make. So I'm just going to show you here on the next one. This is an example from our kids, what they do, investing versus saving. So
we're just like many families. We're trying to navigate lots of different things with teenage kids and trying to teach them the ways of the world. We're trying to teach them to be morally upstanding, good, kind people. We're also trying to teach them to manage their money well, so they don't die in poverty. That's a little bit extreme, but I feel like this is kind of the thing with the world at the moment. It's becoming less and less easy for kids to launch themselves into adulthood from a shaky platform. So the more solid platform we can provide our kids, whether or not that's a family platform, that's a schooling platform, whether or not it's an economic platform, I think more and more it's important that we, as in myself and my husband, do that for our kids. And I know everyone's at different stages with their ability to do that, or you might just think, actually, it's really character building for kids just to launch on their own and carry on, kind of not too dissimilar to how I did it. I didn't have anyone, I had a good family platform, but no one gave me money to study or, once I turned 18, I was considered an independent adult and it was up to me to kind of make my way in the world. And, I'm grateful that I did. But for my kids, I want to do something a wee bit different. So for them, they have a couple of ways they make money and a couple of things they do with that money. At the top, you've got there, they get some pocket money. If you've watched me cash stuff, they get $10 a week each pocket money. They give $1 of that, so 10% of that to a charity. They have a part-time job each, so they get some wages. And they do have some investments, so those investments do pay dividends. The investments do grow, and they also do get some interest from their savings accounts. So that's how they're making money on that side. And then what they're doing with that money, well, at the top, I should also say, pocket money maybe, that also includes investment money. We are also giving some money into some, small amounts of money into an investment for them. So we have Sharesies. We contribute some money each week to a Sharesies account, to a Total World Fund on their behalf. They have to physically make the transaction, but we put the money into the account for them. So that's showing them how to invest money. I want them to learn that savings is okay for, you want to save up, you want to buy a car when you're a late teenager, or you're saving up and you're going to contribute to your university. All those things are very important. I want to teach them that as well. And this is something that my parents didn't do with me. They always taught me to be a good saver. They didn't teach me how to be an investor. And that's because they didn't know. They weren't good investors either. They were good savers, but they didn't know how to do that next thing. So that's what I'm trying to teach my children. And that's just a change my husband and I have made in our family culture. So they're in there, they're investing in Sharesies. My husband and I also put money into their KiwiSaver. That money there is locked in until they're 65. So I have a particular amount of money that I'm trying to catch up, that I feel like I should have put in there already, because I did stop it for some years. So I'm trying to catch up to that point. Once I've reached that amount, then I'm going to scale that well back. As soon as they get a job that pays a KiwiSaver contribution, I will stop that paying that amount at all. I won't contribute to that. That will just be taken over by them and their employer. So that's not going to be an ongoing cost, but then I will probably just move that into the Sharesies. So my focus for them would be more to build the Sharesies amount, although at the moment KiwiSaver is more than Sharesies. But going forward, Sharesies would be the priority, because that's the money they can use prior to 65. And if, they do life well, hopefully they will have a lot more freedom before they're 65 than kind of a traditional pension age. And then to teach them to be good investors, not only do they use our money to have a kind of practice at investing, is we also ask that they put in 50% of all the money they earn into an investment account. And that can be, if they get birthday money, half of it goes into Sharesies. If they get paid $40, $20 of that goes into Sharesies. So they're learning that they feel like, I think at the moment, that they just have more money than they need. So they're finding it very easy. Their needs and wants are quite small. As they get older, this might become harder. I know in my 20s, I would have found it very hard to save 50% of my wage. But we're here to help them kind of build the muscle, build the ability to save, whether or not they find that easy or not. We're kind of here to support them. I would rather they put in 50% of their wages and came and ate at home 3 nights a week than pay for all their own groceries and not be able to put in 50%, if that makes sense. I want to support them to keep up with that habit, because I do believe that is the key to financial freedom. So that's what our kids do. That's kind of how we're steering it, aren't we? We're pushing them in a particular direction. What we do, though, it's not exactly perfect, and I do need to reallocate all of this. So please, just take it with the intention. I'm just trying to share so I can show how savings versus investment works, because ultimately it's the investments that we make that are going to change our life. I think savings, yes, super, super important, because that's what stops you from living paycheck to paycheck. Always, oh, do I have money for the dentist? Oh no, there's this bill. You put in your short, medium, and long-term savings, and that gets taken care of. There's always money in there for the new shoes or the dentist bill or the electric bill, whatever it is. If you're putting the little bits away, you plug away at a big goal over many, many years. Eventually, you're going to get that European trip if you just keep at it. But that's savings, and we're going to spend it all. So it's not going to make us wealthy. It's not going to give us financial freedom. It helps us sleep at night, yes, because the day-to-day life is taken care of, and that's really important. But it's this next step, it's the investments that we're doing that are kind of changing our lives. And it hasn't always been this way. Some of our investments are by default, and I'll tell you about that as we go. I'm just going to go straight here to KiwiSaver, because 41% of our wealth. And just before we start, I'll just say this doesn't include anything to do with our house. We have a paid off house, we're mortgage free, but I just think you're always going to need somewhere to live, and this is where we live. So I don't even consider it an asset. I just consider it a house where we live. And if at some point in the future we moved, well, we would need to sell this house to buy another house, and that would probably cost a similar amount of money. So I don't think there's much in it for us. Maybe when we're dead and our kids have it, then there's something in it for them. But for now, I just kind of park that to the side and go, great, we've got our shelter, we're warm, it's in a nice part of town, we can have a big garden, we can do the things that make us happy here. But it's not about wealth for me. The house is the house, and that's just something we've ticked off, we've done it, and now we can move on. This stuff here, though, that I'm going to talk about, this is what I consider kind of wealth creation, and what is helping steer us towards an early retirement, hopefully, if we keep it up and we manage to pull it off. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a good thing to do or not a good thing. Is it too hedonistic to be early retired? Should we just keep plugging away even if we hit our number? But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation to have. So KiwiSaver, we have 41% of the kind of money we have is locked into KiwiSaver. And part of that is because we unintentionally started young, because we moved to countries where they had compulsory super saving schemes. That was in Australia, so we did that. And then when we moved to the UK, our workplace had a really great pension scheme, and we just did it because everyone told us, hey, it's a really good pension scheme, you should sign up for this. So we just did. And then when we left that country, we arranged for it to get sent back to New Zealand, but it could only go into a particular fund. And that fund, it had to be like a proper KiwiSaver. We couldn't put it just straight into our bank account at that stage. My husband, when he did his, he could. We actually just put that towards the mortgage. But by the time I moved mine back, it had to go into a proper fund that was locked up until I was 65. So 41% of our money is locked up until we're 65. I'm currently 48. My husband is 53. So if we do manage to pull off an early retirement in the next couple of years, we'll have 10 years before he gets his super and 15 years before I got mine. Next of all, I'll jump over to cash. We've got 16% in cash. Now, this is too much, I think, to hold in cash. It's in a high interest savings account, but it's only getting 3.5%, as opposed to, say, KiwiSaver or Sharesies or Simplicity, which are getting much higher returns. The reason it's in cash is because I aim to use that before the end of the year in another investment. We've been saving for a couple of years, but I knew we wanted to spend it in the next, say, 2 years. And everything I've read just tells me not to invest in the share market if you're not going to keep it there for more than 5 years. And I knew I wasn't. So that's there, but it's going to be spent and used in a particular investment that I'm hoping I'll be able to sort out before the end of the year. If I do, I'll tell you all about it. Simplicity, we have 35% in a managed fund with Simplicity. Why do I have such a big chunk? Well, I started this Simplicity fund. I put money into there at the same time as I started Sharesies, but I just felt really nervous because I had never done any shares or anything like that before. And I just thought, can I really be trusted to put this big chunk of money into my own shares? Well, the short answer is yes, I feel like I can be trusted. And that will be coming out of Simplicity by the end of this year. And some of it will be joining in with the cash for a particular investment that I have in mind. And the rest of it will be going into a total world fund and Sharesies. And then that will be my main vehicle going forward. I will just be aiming to grow that Sharesies account on and on and on and on. So that's what I'll do. We'll have our pensions locked up. Or our super, I should say, not pensions. That's confusing for people. Pension, the state will give us a pension when we turn 65, regardless of the money we have. Because we live so simply, it's highly likely that we will be able to live off our pension reasonably comfortably, just with a tiny top up from our investments. So they will continue to grow and grow into the future. Our cash will go into a particular investment also that we are aiming to work towards, and we'll keep a small amount just in liquid cash. It's always helpful to have cash. This is separate to our emergency fund though. So we have cash in an emergency fund, but that's not allocated or recorded up here. That's something completely separate. So yeah, we've got a bit of a rejig happening in our lives, but I guess the thing is with all of this money that's tied up in cash, KiwiSaver, Simplicity and Sharesies, it all goes back to that beginning definition, I guess, that we're putting money into financial schemes with the intention of realizing a profit. The entire point of all these things is to realize a profit. When I put money aside for new shoes, there's no profit in that. I just don't want to be walking around with holey shoes worrying about it. So I hope that makes sense. If you've got any questions, please just drop a comment down below. I'd love to chat with you. If you think differently to me, feel free to share that as well. We don't all have to be the same. I know lots of people will read through all the comments, and so it's fun to have different ideas as long as they're shared respectfully. I think that's really cool, and I'm happy to kind of host a platform for that. So yeah, jump in, tell us what you think. Are you doing anything different? What do you think of that? Can you see any big gaping holes in my plan? If you see something that you think, oh my goodness, that's a bit of a train wreck, I'd love to hear that too. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys next time. Bye for now.